Okay, let's dive into the invisible rules that shape every single website you visit. It's a powerful language called CSS, and it's basically the silent director behind the scenes, telling every headline, image, and button exactly how to look and where to go.
So we're going to start with a frustration that, let's be honest, every single web creator has felt. You write some code, you have this perfect vision in your head, but what shows up in the browser? It seems to have a mind of its own. But here's the thing, it's not random. It's just following a set of rules you might not know about yet.
To solve this mystery, here's our roadmap. We're going to look at how style conflicts get resolved, how to really control your layout, and the fundamental idea that everything is a box. Then we'll get into making text and images play nicely together. And finally, how to make your site look amazing on any device. Let's turn that chaos into predictable control.
First up, we need to understand the hierarchy. See, when you have multiple styles all trying to change the same element, the browser needs a tiebreaker. It's a style showdown.
And the core concept that decides the winner is called the cascade. You know, it's actually the perfect name for it. Think of it like a waterfall. Styles cascade down from different places: the browser, the user, and of course, you, the author. The browser just needs a clear rulebook to figure out which style actually gets applied in the end.
So what's the pecking order here? Well, at the very bottom, you've got the browser's default styles. You know, that super plain, unstyled look. Then come user styles, which someone might set up for, say, better readability. But ruling over all of them? That's you. Your styles, the author styles. As the creator, your rules have the final say.
Okay, so that makes sense. But what happens if you have two rules in your own style sheet that are fighting over the same element? The tiebreaker here is a great word: specificity. Basically, the rule with the most specific selector wins. As a quick rule of thumb, an ID is the most powerful, a class is in the middle, and a general tag selector is the least specific. And this is a perfect demonstration of that. Just look at the code on the left. We have a general style for all paragraph text, but notice that more specific rule for a class called .special, the one that makes the text purple. So when we apply that class to a paragraph, its rule overrides the general one. And you can see the result on the right. The text turns purple. That's specificity winning the showdown right there.
All right, so we've got a handle on how styles are applied. But that's only half the battle, right? Now, let's really take control of the layout and learn how to position elements exactly where we want them on the page.
There are two main ways to take manual control here. Using relative positioning is kind of like just nudging something on your desk. It's still part of the overall arrangement, you've just shifted it a bit. Absolute positioning, though, is more like picking that thing up off the desk entirely and placing it anywhere you want, completely independent of everything else.
Now, once you start positioning elements absolutely, they can and will end up on top of each other. So, how do you control which one is in front? For that, we use something called z-index. The best way to think of it is like stacking transparent sheets on an old-school projector. A higher z-index number means it's closer to the top of the pile, and it's what you see on top. And here is z-index in action. The background image has a z-index of 1. The foreground image is sitting on top of that with a z-index of 2. But the text, with the highest z-index of 3, comes out on top of everything. It's a really simple rule. Higher the number, the closer to your eyes it appears.
Okay, now for what is arguably the most fundamental concept in all of CSS. Seriously, once you get this, everything else about layout just clicks into place. The secret is, every single element on your page is treated as a rectangular box.
This right here is the CSS box model. And a great analogy for it is a framed picture. You've got the content itself, right? That's the photo. Around that is the padding, which is like the matting inside the frame. Then you've got the border, which is the frame itself. And finally, the margin, which is just the empty space between your picture and the next one on the wall.
So by controlling these 4 distinct layers, the content, the padding, the border, and the margin, you get this incredibly precise granular control over the spacing, size, and framing of every single thing on your webpage. And you can get super creative with just the border alone. I mean, as this slide shows, it doesn't have to be some simple solid line. You can make it dotted, dashed, a double line. You can even create these cool 3D effects like groove or ridge. It's a really powerful tool for visual design. So by default, these boxes we just talked about just stack on top of each other, in a single column. But what if you want a more dynamic, magazine-style layout where text wraps neatly around an image? Well, that's where floating comes in.
The float property is a classic CSS tool that does pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It takes an element, like an image or a heading, lifts it out of that normal vertical flow, and shoves it over to the left or right side of its container. And the crucial part is that other content, like your paragraphs of text, will then just politely flow right around it.
This slide shows you the power of just a single line of code. On the left, in the code, notice that float right rule that's applied to the headings. Now look at the output on the right. That one little line has totally transformed the layout. The headings are pushed to the right, and the text now flows elegantly around them. It's a really simple way to create a more dynamic, magazine-like feel.
All right, finally, let's talk about the modern web. Your website isn't just viewed on a desktop computer anymore, right? It has to look fantastic everywhere, from a tiny phone held sideways to a massive widescreen monitor. This is what we call responsive design.
So how do we actually do it? How can a single codebase create a layout that shifts and adapts perfectly to whatever screen it's on? Well, the answer lies in making our CSS rules conditional, so they only apply when certain criteria are met.
This bit of magic is accomplished with something called media queries. And this is the key to all responsive design. It's basically like writing an if-then statement for your styles. You can tell the browser, hey, if the screen is less than 600 pixels wide, then make the font bigger and stack the columns vertically. It's that simple.
And it's not just for screen sizes. This code shows a really simple but powerful media query in action. The first rule gives the page a blue background on the screen. But look at that @media_print rule. It's saying, hey, when this page is being printed, use these styles instead, giving it a clean, ink-saving white background. Pretty cool, right?
So the crucial point to take away from all this is that CSS isn't just about colors and fonts. It is a powerful and honestly logical rulebook. From resolving style conflicts with the cascade, to controlling layout with positioning and floats, all the way to adapting to any screen with media queries, CSS gives you the rules to be the director of your web page's design.
By understanding these core principles, the cascade, the box model, positioning, media queries, you've unlocked the fundamental language of web design. The chaos now has an order. You know the rules, so the only question left is, what will you create with them?